The great hall of the Galactic Empire shone with soft light reflected from floating crystal pillars. Representatives from many worlds filled the curved rows of seats, their forms different in shape and color, their voices blending into a low hum of anticipation. Today was not just another ceremony. It was the day the Emperor would choose a new royal protector, a warrior trusted to guard the future of the Empire. Princess Elira stood beside her father, Emperor Kael'thar, trying to remain calm. She had watched many ceremonies before, but this one felt different. The air carried tension, as if something unseen waited to change everything. Warriors from distant systems stepped forward one by one. Some wore shining armor that glowed with energy. Others carried strange weapons that shifted shape as they moved. Each tried to impress the court with demonstrations of strength and skill. The crowd responded with admiration. These warriors were powerful, noble, and confident. They bowed deeply to the Emperor and spoke with polished voices. Elira smiled politely at each of them, but none truly caught her attention. They seemed predictable, trained to perform exactly as expected. Then the doors opened again. A tall figure entered quietly. He did not glow like the others. His armor was dark and practical, showing signs of repair. No bright symbols marked his rank. His steps were steady, neither rushed nor slow, as if he felt no need to prove himself. Whispers spread through the hall. A human. Elira had heard many stories about humans. Some described them as brave allies. Others warned that humans were unpredictable, driven by emotions that alien cultures struggled to understand. Few humans had ever stood inside the imperial court. The human warrior stopped at the center of the floor and gave a simple nod. "Commander Rowan Hale," he said calmly. His voice was steady, not loud but clear enough to reach every corner of the hall. Unlike the other warriors, he did not make a grand speech. He simply waited. Elira felt a strange unease. She could not explain it. There was nothing openly threatening about him, yet something about his quiet presence felt heavy. His eyes moved slowly across the room, observing everything without judgment. The trials began. The first competitor demonstrated incredible speed, moving so fast that light trailed behind him. The crowd gasped as he struck targets with perfect precision. Another warrior used advanced energy shields, creating walls of glowing force that shifted like water. Each performance grew more impressive than the last. When Rowan's turn came, the hall grew silent again. He stepped into the testing area without ceremony. The trial masters activated multiple drones designed to test reaction time and strategy. Instead of attacking immediately, Rowan watched the drones carefully. He moved only when necessary, stepping aside with small motions that wasted no energy. The drones attacked from different angles. He redirected them, turning their paths against each other. Within moments, they collided and shut down. There was no dramatic display, only efficiency. Some members of the court looked confused. Others leaned forward with interest. The next trial tested endurance. Warriors faced simulated threats designed to overwhelm their senses. Many relied on powerful abilities to force their way through. Rowan moved differently. He adjusted his breathing, slowing his movements, choosing the safest path instead of the fastest one. When the simulation ended, he stood calm and steady while others showed signs of exhaustion. Elira watched him carefully. She realized that he never tried to impress anyone. He simply focused on the task. That unsettled her more than anything else. During a break between trials, she turned slightly toward her father. "Why invite a human?" she whispered. The Emperor's expression remained thoughtful. "Because sometimes the strongest warriors are not the ones who shine the brightest," he replied softly. She did not fully understand. The final trial required cooperation. Two warriors would face a complex scenario together. Rowan was paired with an alien champion known for pride and independence. At first, the champion tried to lead, ignoring Rowan's suggestions. But when the situation became more dangerous, Rowan adjusted quietly, supporting the other warrior's weaknesses instead of challenging his authority. Together, they succeeded where other teams had failed. The crowd reacted with growing respect. Elira felt a strange mix of curiosity and discomfort. She sensed that Rowan saw more than he said. His calmness felt like a deep ocean hiding unknown depths. When all trials ended, the Emperor rose. Silence filled the hall. "Many warriors have shown strength today," he announced. But the role of royal protector requires more than power. It requires judgment, patience, and the ability to protect without seeking glory. He paused, allowing anticipation to build. My choice is Commander Rowan Hale of Earth. The words echoed through the hall. Shock spread across the audience. Some nobles looked displeased. Others exchanged uncertain glances. Before Elira realized what she was doing, she stepped forward. Father, not him, she said, her voice louder than intended. That human warrior scares me. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Rowan did not react with anger or surprise. He simply looked at her, calm and steady, as if he had expected resistance. Elira felt her heart beat faster. She had spoken honestly, but now every eye in the hall watched her. The Emperor studied her carefully. Fear often reveals truths we do not yet understand, he said gently, but decisions made for the safety of the Empire cannot be guided by fear alone. He turned back to Rowan. Do you accept this duty? Rowan nodded once. I do. His voice carried no pride, only commitment. The ceremony ended soon after, but tension remained in the air. As the crowd dispersed, Elira found herself thinking about the human again. She had expected someone loud or aggressive, yet he was quiet and controlled. Why did that make her uneasy? Later, she watched from a balcony as Rowan walked through the palace corridors. Guards greeted him with caution. Some showed respect, others hesitation. He responded to each with the same calm manner. He stopped to help a young attendant who had dropped a stack of data tablets, kneeling without hesitation. The small action surprised Elira. Was this truly the warrior she feared? She turned away, unsure of her own feelings. Below her, Rowan paused briefly, as if sensing someone watching him. He looked up toward the balcony, but she stepped back before he could see her clearly. The night sky beyond the palace shimmered with distant stars. Somewhere among them, new threats waited. The Empire had chosen its protector, and for reasons she did not yet understand, that protector frightened her more than any enemy. The morning light inside the palace was soft, but the mood was not. After the ceremony, the royal corridors felt different, like the stones themselves were listening. Servants walked more quietly. Guards stood straighter. Even the air seemed careful. Commander Rowan Hale began his first day as royal protector without ceremony. He woke before the palace bells, checked his equipment, and reviewed the palace map that the security office had provided. The map was detailed, but Rowan did not trust paper alone. He walked the halls himself, counting doors, noting blind corners, watching how people moved. He did not do it to show control. He did it because he believed safety was built from small details. Princess Elira watched him from a distance more than once. She did not mean to. She told herself she was simply curious. But when she saw him move through the palace like someone reading a story that others could not see, her unease returned. Rowan did not act like the other warriors. The palace guards spoke loudly about honor, pride, and loyalty. Rowan spoke about timing, exits, and patterns. He asked questions that felt too sharp. How many service tunnels connected to the outer gardens? How often were supply ships inspected? How many guards changed shifts at once? The security officers answered carefully, and sometimes they looked embarrassed. Some of them had never thought about those questions. Elira hated that he made the palace feel less perfect. She had grown up believing the imperial walls were unbreakable. Rowan treated the walls like they were only one layer of safety, not the whole thing. During the first official meeting, the Emperor sat at the long table with advisors and high guards. Elira sat beside him as a symbol of continuity and strength. Rowan stood at the side, quiet, listening. An advisor with silver skin and a smooth voice leaned forward. Your Majesty, the advisor said, many worlds are uneasy. A human has never held this role. Some believe it sends the wrong message. The Emperor's eyes remained calm. What message is that? He asked. That the Empire is uncertain, the advisor said. That it must borrow strength? Rowan did not speak. He stayed still, hands behind his back, but Elira noticed something. He was listening as if the advisor's words were not an insult but information. His face did not harden. He simply absorbed the moment. Another advisor spoke. Princess Elira's safety is the heart of the Empire. If the court doubts the protector, they will doubt the throne. The Emperor turned to Rowan. Commander Hale, he said, what is your response? Rowan lifted his chin slightly. I understand their concern, he said. I will not ask the court to trust me. I will earn it. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight because it did not beg for approval. Elira felt a strange irritation. It was too simple, too confident without pride. It reminded her of a storm that did not announce itself. After the meeting ended, Elira walked away quickly. She did not want to be near him. She did not want to feel like she was reading a person she could not understand. But the palace, it seemed, had other plans. Later that day, Elira attended a formal greeting with diplomats from 3 allied systems. She wore ceremonial robes with flowing layers and a small crown that held the symbol of her family. Every move she made was watched, every smile measured. When she entered the greeting hall, she saw Rowan already there. He stood near the side wall, positioned where he could see every doorway. His posture was relaxed but alert, like a predator that refused to act like one. Elira felt her shoulders tense. She forced herself to stay calm. One of the diplomats, a tall being with shimmering eyes, greeted her warmly. "Princess," the diplomat said, "your empire grows stronger each year." Elira offered a polite response and nodded. But as the greetings continued, she noticed Rowan's gaze shift, not to her but to a servant carrying a tray of drinks. The servant's steps were too careful, like someone trying not to draw attention. Rowan's eyes followed the servant's hands. Elira did not understand why until Rowan moved. He crossed the room with controlled speed, not running, not shouting. He reached the servant just as the tray tilted. The glasses nearly fell. Rowan caught the tray smoothly and steadied it. The servant froze, eyes wide. I'm sorry," the servant whispered. Rowan did not scold. "It's fine," he said. "Take a breath, walk slower." Then he looked closer at the tray, as if checking something the others could not see. He did not take a drink. He handed the tray back. The diplomats laughed lightly, thinking it was a simple accident, and the greeting continued. Elira, however, felt a chill. Rowan returned to his spot, and Elira noticed he had a small device in his hand now, hidden against his palm. He pressed something once, subtle. Later, when the greeting ended and the hall emptied, Elira saw palace guards quietly remove the servant for questioning. There was no drama, no loud accusation. It was handled like a whisper. Elira's curiosity finally overcame her fear. She approached Rowan in the corridor outside the hall, keeping her chin high like royalty demanded. "You stopped a tray," she said. "Why?" Rowan looked at her with calm eyes. "Because it was wrong," he answered. "That is not an answer," Elira said, sharper than she intended. Rowan did not react with offense. The servant's hands were shaking, the tray was heavier than it should be, and the path he took avoided the security scan near the corner. Elira stared at him. "You noticed all that in a moment?" Rowan nodded. "Humans train for patterns." In war, the smallest thing can mean danger. Elira felt her stomach tight. "Was it danger?" Rowan spoke carefully. "It might be nothing, or it might be a test. Either way, I treat it seriously." Elira hated how reasonable he sounded. She wanted a clear villain, a clear threat, a clear explanation. Rowan offered only careful caution. She took a slow breath. "You made the diplomats think it was an accident." Rowan's voice stayed even. "Panic creates chaos. Chaos hides real threats." Elira held his gaze and found it hard to look away. There was no cruelty in him, but there was also no softness in the way he viewed the world. He saw risk everywhere, like someone who had learned safety could vanish in a second. That was what scared her. "You carry your war inside you," she said quietly, surprising herself. Rowan's expression did not change much, but something in his eyes shifted for a moment, like a door opening and closing. "I carry lessons," he said. "If I didn't, I wouldn't be here." Elira turned away, unsure why her chest felt tight. That evening, the Emperor invited Rowan to a private dinner in a smaller chamber, meant for family and trusted advisors. Elira attended as expected. She sat across from Rowan, trying not to watch him, but her eyes kept returning. He ate calmly, not rushing, not distracted. He listened when the Emperor spoke. He did not interrupt. He did not try to charm. Elira expected her father to challenge him, to question his loyalty, to test his pride. But the Emperor spoke differently. "You are quiet," the Emperor said. Rowan nodded. "I learned that loud people are easy to track." The Emperor's mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "And what do you think of my court?" Rowan paused, careful. "It's beautiful," he said, "and vulnerable." Several advisors stiffened. Elira's eyes narrowed. The Emperor leaned back. "Explain." Rowan's tone remained respectful. "Your court is built on tradition. Many here assume threats will come in the ways they remember. But threats change. Enemies learn. They watch habits, schedules, pride. They use those things." The advisors looked offended. Elira felt herself bristle, but part of her wondered if he was right. The Emperor's voice stayed calm. "And what would you change?" Rowan answered without arrogance. Shift changes should overlap, not switch all at once. Supply deliveries should be randomized. Access tunnels need monitoring. And the princess should have a safe route known only to a few. Elira's fork stopped midair. A safe route? She asked. Rowan met her eyes. Yes. Elira sat straighter. I will not be hidden like a frightened child. Rowan's voice did not rise. Safety isn't hiding. It's having options. Elira's cheeks warmed. She wanted to argue, but the way he spoke did not feel like a command. It felt like someone offering a truth. The Emperor lifted a hand slightly. Elira, he said gently, listen. She held her tongue, but her pride stung. After dinner, Elira walked alone in a quiet garden inside the palace dome. The plants were carefully shaped, and small glowing insects drifted through the air like living jewels. She usually loved this place. Tonight, it felt smaller. She heard footsteps behind her and turned quickly. Rowan stood a few steps away, keeping a respectful distance. Your guards let you walk alone? He asked. Elira's voice was cold. This is my home. I can walk where I want. Rowan looked around. Even in a place like this, someone could hide, he said. Elira's eyes flashed. Do you enjoy making everything sound dangerous? Rowan's jaw tightened slightly, then relaxed. No, he said. I enjoy keeping people alive. The words hit her harder than she expected. She looked away, pretending the plants interested her more. Rowan waited a moment, then he spoke again, softer. You said I scared you. Elira's hands curled slightly at her sides. You do, she admitted, though it felt like giving away power. Why? Rowan asked. Elira wanted to say because humans are unpredictable, because your eyes look like you've seen darkness, because you don't act like the others, but the truth came out differently. Because you don't fear us, she said. Rowan's eyes stayed on her. That's not true, he said. I respect you and your people. That's not what I meant, Elira said, frustrated. The others want approval, they want status, they want the court to love them, you don't. Rowan looked down for a moment, then back up. In the wars I fought, he said, approval didn't stop danger, skills did. Elira swallowed. Wars, she repeated. What wars? Rowan hesitated. He did not like talking about himself, but he answered honestly. On Earth, he said, humans fought to survive many times. Then we met others in space. Some were friendly, some were not. I was trained to protect people in situations where rules break. Elira's voice softened without her permission. And you always survived? Rowan's eyes darkened slightly. Not always, he said. Silence stretched between them. The glowing insects drifted around them, unaware of the weight in the air. Elira felt a strange ache. She had imagined warriors as heroes in stories, bright and celebrated. Rowan's strength felt different. It felt earned by pain, by loss, by hard choices. That was why he scared her, because he was real. Before she could speak again, Rowan's head tilted slightly like he heard something far away. He raised a hand, signaling stillness. Elira froze. What is it? She whispered. Rowan's voice was low. Listen. At first, Elira heard nothing but the gentle water in the garden fountain. Then she caught it, a faint clicking like metal tapping stone coming from the far side of the garden wall. Rowan moved instantly, stepping between Elira and the direction of the sound. He didn't pull a weapon. He simply shifted his body as a shield, calm but ready. Elira's heart pounded. Rowan touched the communicator on his wrist. Movement near the inner garden wall, he said quietly. Too possible. No panic. Move a team to the north corridor. Quiet approach. His words were controlled, like he was speaking to people who understood him perfectly. Within moments, guards appeared at the garden entrances, moving fast but silent. Elira watched, stunned. You sensed that, she said. Rowan did not look away from the wall. I noticed the pattern of the insects, he said. They shifted. Something disturbed the air. Elira's eyes widened. That level of awareness seemed impossible. A guard captain approached, whispering, We found a small device on the wall, Your Highness. It appears to be a scanner. Rowan's shoulders tightened slightly. Someone is mapping the palace, he said. Elira felt cold spread through her. So it's real, she whispered. Rowan finally turned to her. His expression was steady, not comforting, not harsh, just honest. It's real, he said. But you're safe right now because we caught it early. Elira looked at the scanner being carefully removed. For the first time, she did not feel fear of Rowan. She felt fear of what he was protecting her from. As they escorted her back inside, Elira walked beside Rowan, not behind him. She still did not fully trust him, but something had changed. She had shouted that he scared her. Now she understood the deeper truth. He scared her because he could see danger before it arrived. And if the danger was already reaching into the palace walls, then the Empire was closer to the edge than anyone wanted to admit. That night, as Elira lay awake in her chamber, she kept seeing Rowan's calm face in the garden. Not proud, not desperate, just certain. For the first time in her life, the princess wondered if the strongest protector was not the one who looked heroic. It was the one who stayed steady when everyone else would panic. And that was the human the Emperor had chosen. The discovery of the small scanning device in the garden changed everything inside the palace. The quiet confidence that once filled the halls was replaced by careful watchfulness. Guards doubled their patrols. Advisors spoke in low voices behind closed doors. Even the servants moved with more caution, as if they could feel unseen eyes watching from far away. Commander Rowan Hale did not panic. Instead, he worked more quietly than before. He walked through corridors at different times each day, changing his routes so no pattern could be followed. He spoke with guards individually, learning their strengths and weaknesses. He studied the palace systems again and again, searching for gaps others had ignored. Princess Elira noticed the difference. The palace felt tighter, more serious. She found herself thinking about Rowan's words in the garden. Danger was real. It was not a story told to children. It was already reaching toward them. One afternoon, she watched Rowan from a balcony overlooking the training yard. Several elite guards practiced combat drills while Rowan stood with the captain, observing. He did not interrupt often, but when he did, the guards listened carefully. "Too predictable," Rowan said calmly as two fighters repeated a pattern. "Change angles. If you repeat movement, someone will learn it." The captain nodded and ordered the guards to adjust. Elira felt a strange sense of surprise. The guards respected him now. Not fully, but enough to listen. She realized that Rowan never forced authority. He earned it slowly. Later that day, the Emperor called a private meeting with only a few trusted individuals. Elira sat beside him, trying to understand the tension she felt in the room. Rowan stood near the wall as usual. A senior advisor spoke first. "The scanner found in the garden is not random," the advisor said. "Its technology belongs to a coalition known for strategic attacks." The Emperor's expression hardened slightly. "Purpose." "Mapping vulnerabilities," the advisor replied. "Someone is studying the palace." Silence filled the room. Elira felt her chest tighten. She glanced at Rowan, who remained calm, but she could see his attention sharpen. "Commander," the Emperor said, "your assessment." Rowan spoke slowly, choosing each word. "This is preparation," he said. "Someone is testing our reactions. They want to see how fast we respond and where we move resources." "And their goal?" Elira asked quietly. Rowan met her gaze. "You," he said simply. The word hung heavy in the air. Elira tried to keep her expression calm, but fear moved inside her like a shadow. She had always known she was important to the Empire, but hearing herself described as a target felt different. The Emperor nodded slightly. "Then we must prepare." Rowan stepped closer to the table, activating a small projection device. A map of the palace appeared in light. "I recommend changing several routines immediately," he said. "No public schedules, no predictable routes. Increase hidden observation points." One advisor frowned. "These changes will create discomfort among guests." Rowan did not argue emotionally. "Discomfort is temporary," he said. "Failure is permanent." The room fell quiet again. Elira studied the map, noticing how Rowan had marked small areas others ignored: service tunnels, maintenance corridors, hidden entrances. He thought differently from traditional commanders. The Emperor approved the changes. Over the next days, the palace transformed. Some nobles complained about new security checks. Others whispered that the human was making the Empire look afraid. Elira overheard those conversations and felt defensive without meaning to. She began noticing how often Rowan protected others without seeking praise. One evening, she walked into the archive chamber to escape the tension. The room was filled with ancient records and glowing data crystals. She did not expect to find Rowan there. He stood near a projection table, studying old battle histories. "You read our history?" she asked. Rowan turned slightly. "Yes," he said. "Understanding the past helps predict the future." Elira stepped closer, curiosity replacing some of her unease. "What do you see?" Rowan pointed at a projection showing previous conflicts. "Your enemies prefer indirect attacks," he said. "They create distractions first, then they strike where no one is looking." Elira crossed her arms. "You sound certain." "I've seen similar strategies before," he replied. She hesitated, then asked, "Do humans always think about danger like this?" Rowan considered the question. "Not always," he said, "but soldiers learn too." She studied him quietly. "Does it ever stop?" Rowan paused longer this time. "No," he admitted. "You just learn to live with it." Elira felt a strange sadness at his words. She had grown up surrounded by comfort. Rowan carried a world where safety was never guaranteed. Before she could respond, an alert sounded through the palace, soft but urgent. Rowan's posture changed instantly. "Security alert," he said, touching his communicator. A guard's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Multiple unknown ships entering orbit. Identification signals masked." Elira's heart raced. "Is it an attack?" Rowan did not answer immediately. He listened carefully to the incoming information. "Possibly reconnaissance," he said finally, "but we prepare for worse." The palace shifted into controlled motion. Guards moved to assigned positions. Defense systems activated silently. The sky outside darkened slightly as shields prepared. Elira followed Rowan through the corridors, her steps faster than usual. She expected fear to take control, but Rowan's calm presence kept her steady. "What should I do?" she asked. "Stay near me," he said simply. They reached a command room where officers monitored space activity. A large display showed several unidentified ships moving slowly at the edge of detection range. "They're testing response time," Rowan said. The Emperor entered soon after, surrounded by advisors. "Report," he commanded. Officers explained that the ships were not attacking yet. They were watching. Elira felt anger rise. "They think we are weak." Rowan shook his head slightly. "They think we are predictable," he corrected. Minutes passed slowly. The ships moved closer, then farther away, as if studying every reaction. Finally, they retreated into deep space. The room exhaled as tension eased. One advisor laughed nervously. Perhaps it was nothing. Rowan's expression remained serious. "No," he said quietly. "It was a message." Elira felt a chill. "What kind of message?" "That they are ready," he replied. That night, Elira could not sleep. She walked the palace corridors alone until she found herself near the observation deck. Stars filled the sky beyond the transparent wall. Rowan stood there already, watching the darkness. "You do not rest," she said. He gave a small smile. "Rest comes later." She stood beside him, feeling less afraid of his presence than before. "I used to think warriors enjoyed danger," she said softly. "Some do," Rowan replied. "I prefer preventing it." She nodded slowly. Silence settled between them, but it felt comfortable. Then suddenly the calm shattered. An explosion shook the palace, not loud enough to destroy, but strong enough to send alarms screaming through every corridor. Lights flashed red. Elira grabbed the railing to stay balanced. "What was that?" Rowan's voice turned sharp but controlled. "Diversion," he said immediately. He pulled her gently away from the window. "Stay close." Through the communicator, voices shouted rapid updates. A section of the outer wall had been breached by a small, controlled blast. No casualties reported yet, but confusion spread quickly. Rowan moved fast, guiding Elira through a secondary corridor instead of the main hall. "Why this way?" she asked. "Because everyone expects us to use the main path," he answered. They turned a corner just as guards rushed past toward the explosion site. Rowan kept moving, choosing quieter routes. Elira realized what he was doing. He was avoiding attention. Another alert sounded. "Multiple intruders detected inside the palace." Elira's breath caught. "They're already inside," Rowan nodded. "The explosion was to draw defenders away." He stopped briefly, checking a small scanner device. His eyes narrowed. "3 heat signatures ahead," he said softly. Elira's heart pounded louder than the alarms. Rowan stepped forward carefully, positioning himself between her and the corridor ahead. He did not rush. He observed. A group of armored figures appeared at the far end, moving quickly but cautiously. Their armor was dark and unfamiliar. Rowan raised a hand, signaling nearby guards silently. He moved with controlled precision, using the corridor's angles to create advantage. Elira watched, amazed at how calm he remained even when danger stood directly in front of them. The intruders spotted movement and froze, surprised to find resistance. Rowan spoke into his communicator, giving short, clear instructions. Guards arrived from behind, surrounding the intruders without chaos. The confrontation ended quickly, the attackers forced into surrender by positioning rather than brute force. Elira realized something important in that moment. Rowan did not fight like heroes in stories who charged forward without thinking. He fought like someone solving a puzzle. As guards secured the attackers, Rowan checked the area again, ensuring no second threat waited nearby. Elira looked at him with new understanding. She had feared him because he seemed cold. Now she saw that his calmness was not emptiness. It was focus. The palace remained under alert for hours as security teams searched for more threats. Rowan stayed beside her the entire time, guiding her through safe zones, never showing panic. When the situation finally stabilized, Elira felt exhausted but strangely stronger. She looked at Rowan and spoke quietly. "I understand now," she said. "Understand what?" he asked. "Why my father chose you." Rowan did not respond immediately. Elira continued, her voice steady. "You are not the strongest because you fight harder. You are strongest because you think differently." Rowan gave a small nod. Outside the palace, enemy ships still waited somewhere in the darkness of space. The real battle had not begun yet. And for the first time, Elira felt ready to face it, not alone, but with the human warrior she once feared standing beside her. The palace did not return to normal after the intrusion. Even when the alarm stopped and the lights returned to their soft glow, everyone knew something had changed. The attack had been small, careful, and precise. It was not meant to destroy the Empire in one moment. It was meant to test its defenses, to measure its reactions, and to learn its weaknesses. Commander Rowan Hale understood that better than anyone. He walked through the command center quietly while officers reviewed reports. Guards spoke in low voices, replaying recordings of the intruders' movements. Advisors argued over political consequences. Some wanted to respond immediately with military force. Others believed negotiation was still possible. Rowan listened without interrupting. His eyes moved from one screen to another, watching patterns rather than single moments. Princess Elira stood near him, no longer keeping distance. The fear she once felt had changed into something else. She trusted his presence now, even when she did not fully understand his methods. "They will come again," Rowan said finally. The room grew quiet. One advisor frowned. "We repelled them. Perhaps they have retreated." Rowan shook his head gently. "They learned what they needed," he said. "Next time will be stronger." Elira felt a chill but also a strange calm. Hearing the truth was better than false comfort. The Emperor stepped forward. "Then we prepare," he said firmly. Rowan nodded. "Yes. But preparation is not only defense. We must also change how they see us." Over the next days, Rowan reorganized palace security. He changed patrol routes constantly, making it impossible for enemies to predict movements. He trained guards in new strategies, encouraging them to think instead of simply follow routines. Some resisted at first. Tradition was strong in the Empire, and many warriors believed their old ways were perfect. But when Rowan demonstrated how easily predictable patterns could be exploited, even the proudest fighters began to respect his ideas. Elira watched many of these training sessions. She noticed that Rowan never mocked anyone. He corrected mistakes calmly, showing alternatives rather than giving harsh criticism. Slowly, the guards began to follow him not because he held authority, but because they trusted his experience. One evening, Elira approached him during a break. "You have changed the entire palace," she said. Rowan looked slightly surprised. "The palace changed itself," he replied. "People adapt when they understand why." Elira smiled faintly. "You always speak simply." "Simple works," he said. She hesitated, then asked the question that had been growing inside her. "Are you afraid?" Rowan considered before answering. "Yes," he said honestly. "Fear keeps me aware. The problem is when fear controls decisions." Elira nodded slowly. She realized she had begun to think like him, looking at fear not as weakness but as information. That night, long-range sensors detected multiple ships approaching again. This time they did not hide at the edge of detection. They moved directly toward the planet. The command center filled with tension. "Fleet composition unknown," an officer reported. "Energy signatures match previous intruders." The Emperor stood tall. "Prepare defensive formation." Rowan studied the display carefully. The ships moved in a pattern that looked chaotic but felt intentional. "They are spreading out," he said. "They want us to divide our focus." Elira watched him closely. "What will they do?" "They will try to overwhelm through confusion," Rowan answered. The first phase of the attack began with electronic interference. Communications flickered briefly. Sensors showed false signals mixed with real ones. Guards rushed through corridors, responding to alerts that appeared and disappeared. Rowan moved quickly but without panic. He gave short, clear instructions through his communicator, guiding teams to ignore false alarms and focus on confirmed threats. Elira stayed beside him as he led her toward a secure observation chamber. Outside the wide window, distant flashes marked battles in space as the Imperial fleet engaged the attackers. Inside the palace, several teams of intruders attempted to breach key locations simultaneously. Rowan anticipated their routes, sending guards to intercept them before they reached critical systems. At one moment, a group of attackers nearly reached a transport hub. Rowan redirected defenders through a maintenance corridor others had forgotten existed. The ambush ended the threat quickly. Elira realized that Rowan fought not only with strength but with imagination. As the battle continued, a new alert appeared, one that made Rowan's expression tighten. "Primary shield generator under attack," an officer reported. Without hesitation, Rowan turned to Elira. "We need to move." They ran through a series of corridors toward the generator chamber. Smoke filled parts of the hall, and distant sounds of combat echoed through the walls. Elira's heart pounded, but she stayed focused, matching Rowan's pace. Guards joined them along the way. When they reached the generator chamber, they saw several attackers already inside, attempting to disable the system. Rowan raised his hand, signaling silence. He studied the room quickly, noting positions and angles. "Split left and right," he whispered to the guards, "slow and controlled." The defenders moved exactly as he directed. Within moments, the attackers were surrounded and forced to retreat. The generator remained active. Elira released a breath she had not realized she was holding. "You knew where they would strike," she said. "They go for the heart," Rowan replied. After securing the area, Rowan turned toward her. His expression softened slightly. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Yes." For the first time, she realized she felt safer with him than anywhere else. Hours passed before the attack finally slowed. Imperial forces pushed the enemy ships away from orbit. Inside the palace, the last intruders were captured or driven out. When silence returned, it felt heavier than before. The Emperor gathered the court for a final assessment. Reports confirmed that the Empire had survived the attack with minimal damage compared to what could have happened. One advisor spoke with clear respect. The human strategies prevented catastrophic loss. Others nodded in agreement. Elira watched Rowan carefully. He did not look proud. He looked tired. The Emperor stepped forward and addressed the court. "Today we learned that strength does not come only from power," he said. "It comes from understanding, adaptation, and unity." He turned to Rowan. "Commander Hale, you have proven the wisdom of your selection." Rowan bowed his head slightly. "I serve the Empire," he said. Later, as the palace slowly returned to calm, Elira stood with Rowan on the observation balcony where they had spoken before. Stars shone brightly, peaceful now. "You were right," she said softly. "About what?" Rowan asked. "That fear shows truth," she replied. "I feared you because you were different. Now I see that difference saved us." Rowan looked at the stars for a moment. "Humans survive because we change," he said. "We learn from mistakes." Elira smiled gently. "And now the Empire will learn too." Silence settled between them, comfortable and warm. She remembered the moment she had shouted in the hall, telling her father she was afraid of the human warrior. It felt like a distant memory now. "I am no longer afraid," she said quietly. Rowan glanced at her, surprised. "I trust you," she added. He did not respond immediately, but a small, genuine smile appeared. Below them, the palace lights glowed steadily. Guards moved with renewed confidence. The Empire had faced danger and survived, stronger and wiser. And as Elira looked toward the horizon, she realized that the human warrior she once feared had become something far more important. Not just a protector, but a symbol of hope, proof that strength could come from unexpected places, and that courage was not loud or shining. Sometimes, courage was simply the quiet decision to stand firm when darkness approached. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if the universe itself acknowledged the beginning of a new era. The Empire would move forward not alone, but together, with humanity now part of its future.